concentric circles here. Concentric circles means the circle, the center of the circle will remain the same, and you're making smaller pieces now, smaller circles now, somewhere around 0.5 centimeter as the distance between the circles. Don't measure, let it be experiential, or let this be more like, an approximation that you take. And we will try to refrain from unmuting ourselves. If you have questions, Rashi and I will be taking care of all the questions that you drop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make 5 concentric circles so that we have this large section here in the center in which we can write something down. And on the outer side, our mandala lies. Okay. What are you making right now? Right now, you are working on a grid. So when you're making a mandala, you first make concentric circles. These are your grid. After this, you divide them into equal parts, because when we started, I mentioned that there is symmetry in the work, right? So you want to divide it equally so that there is symmetry in your designs. Because now if I pick these sections and I make my designs, it's going to be much more easier and calculated properly, right? So we are going to divide this thing into parts. And for this purpose, let us start with one circle via the center. I am not covering the entire section because then you will have to erase and it will still have, marks left. So I'm just placing my...
Ma'am?
Yes.
What is the size of inner circle?
The size of inner circle can be anything. If you have taken something like 0.5 as a distance between the concentric circles, then accordingly the size of the inner circle would be. So the outermost is around 10 centimeter in diameter, and we have taken around 0.5 centimeter as distance between them.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, and if you have questions, people, please drop it in the chat box. Okay, now what we are going to do is we will draw a line which is perpendicular. For this, it should pass through the center. That is something that we will not forget. And don't mark the line right away. Have a look around. Does it look equal to you? To me, right now, it looks as if this section and this section are not equal. So we will take a pause, place it properly. See here, if you notice, this line and the line on my pencil, they are coinciding. And they're showing that it's a proper perpendicular that I have made. And after that, mark it into equal parts. Is this the only way in which your grid can be made? No. Usually, when we are doing it professionally, we use protractors and or other equipment. So you use all of them to mark your angles equally. However, we also do the shortcut when experience is the core of the subject, and it is not about the product that you make. So think of mandala, today's session especially, as a journey that you are taking inward, and do not let any other thought enter your mind while you are working on this piece today. It is going to be a mindful activity. Once you have this thing ready, you still want more reference points for yourself, right? So what you should be doing is take one section at a time and try to locate the center point. Once you locate the center point, which can be an approximation again, mark it. Similarly, on the other side, try to locate the center point and mark it. Draw a line via the center, connecting that point. Don't draw it initially. First, have a look. Does it look equal to you? If yes, proceed. Why am I suggesting that you should always know or always make sure that, this passes through the center is because if I don't do that thing and say here, I'm going to do something like, same grid division, and I don't follow the protocol, even if my center is marked properly, and I don't do that, and I go to the other side in this manner, wherein my center is missed out, this section and this section will be different. And despite you working so hard and working on symmetry, it will still not work out. The same process again on the other side. The grid can be made in this manner also, wherein you start from the center, or in this manner also, depending on the purpose. So if I want to make something in the center part also as a design, then I would have gone ahead with this particular method. Since I don't want to draw anything in the center and I want a write up to be in the center, I'm not marking the center area with the grids. Okay. So you have drawn the grid for yourself and you are ready for the process ahead now. All that we need to do is understand what we are going to make in a mandala. Is it just whatever comes to your mind, you make it? Or is it something wherein you plan beforehand, or you at least know the patterns beforehand before you make it? So in mandala, as I was mentioning, there is nothing which is abrupt, which is random, which is not thoughtful. No. Like for example, in this part here, I'm going to mark the center point so that I can make semicircles, 2 semicircles here. Why is it that I made a semicircle? It is because the fundamental shape that we use in mandala, from all of them, circle is the one which is almost used in every single work of ours, in every single mandala. So you can use a rough sheet and write it down that one of the fundamental shapes that we use in mandala is a circle. And from circle, you do derivations like a semicircle, elongated semicircle, and more. These are the shapes that you use in mandala, and they are actually nothing but the fundamental shape called circle. Why circle? In the world of mandala, we do believe that circle is something that does not have a starting point or an ending point. And it showcases abundance, it showcases infinity, it showcases something that is not restrained, something that is free, something that is liberated, something that cannot be chained. And we are referring to the soul when we are making a circle. So whenever you are making a mandala, you are actually talking about the well-being of yourself. The soul is the key, is the center of everything. And which is why we say that this is a very philosophical art that we work on. Without knowing, we have already been working on mental health, on emotional health, on self-healing, on being better versions of ourselves. So we have been already diving into the philosophical side of the work without us being aware of it. Okay. There are 2 ways in which we proceed when we make mandalas. First, you either complete one layer, like you're working on one layer right now. So either complete one layer fully, move to the next one then, or just make the outlines first. And after the outlines are done, then you work on the intricate part. So we are going to work on the second or the latter method. We will first just work on the outlines, and then we will proceed to intricate designs. You already are aware that we make circles as fundamental shapes in mandala. And till now, we have used only circles in our work. Okay. For the next layer, what we will be doing is we will be making a dome structure. Number 2, dome structure. Actually, this is not a dome structure. This is a lotus petal that you are referring to. And while you are working on it, why don't all of you think about it? Think of why is it that we use lotus petal in mandala? Think about it and drop your messages in the chat box. And by the way, before you go ahead, I am showing you a trick to ensure that there is symmetry in your work, even if you are not from art background. Work only on one side first. Don't work on both the sides. Work only on one side so that you are able to maintain symmetry. Now, what happens is we do have this tendency to remember something that has been done in the recent past. So when you are aware that, okay, this is how my muscle movement is, you are most likely not going to make mistakes, and it is going to be the same for all. Especially people find it difficult to go back on the right hand side. And here this trick will come quite handy. So apply the same concept again, only right hand side at a time. And in the meantime, if you have come up with any idea in the sense that you, one second, Joyita, I'll just answer. So if you have been able to think why lotus petal, drop it in the chat box and let me see what your thoughts are. You are asking this question. How can I draw those lines which are situated at the middle of the dome? I guess you have joined a little late, Joyita. So you don't have to draw the ones that are in the middle of the dome. We basically started with the grid. And what you are seeing in the center here in these parts, this is called a grid. So what we did is we first started with a circle. In the meantime, people, drop your messages in the chat box. What do you think by dome, or by what do you understand by lotus petal in mandala? It will not be a right or wrong message. It is your belief. So it's completely okay. Kya baat hai, Kavya? Very nice. What else do we have? So while you are writing it down, you can hear me out. For those who were late, we started with the outermost circle, which is approximately around 10 centimeter in diameter. We made 5 concentric circles and distance between them is 0.5 centimeter. After doing that, we first started with one baseline. Then we did a perpendicular, marked the center point on both the sides so that via the center we can connect them. The only thing that we did is we stopped right here and not, this entire portion, we lifted up the pencil and connected back again and went ahead. So this is how you got the grid. Okay. Symbol of courage rises from dirt and still maintains its beauty. Beautiful, Palak. Very beautifully said. Okay. What else do we have? In the meantime, people, you can do a double line here. Double line in mandala isn't about any philosophical value. It is more of a practical thing. Basically, since the designs in mandala is usually quite intricate, we try to do double line in our design so that the designs don't get merged with each other. Anyone else who would like to take, their chance in understanding what lotus, making us understand what lotus petal is and why lotus in mandala? Anyone? Inner soul. Okay, beautiful. What else? Lotus blooms in mud. With lotus, we want to believe that our mind will be able to bloom even in distress and peace. Beautifully said, everybody. So lotus absolutely is symbolic of the fact that despite the external factors and despite something that is around us on which we don't have control, we try not to get affected by that thing. We try not to get affected by whatever is around us, by whatever is pulling us down, by whatever is not pleasant. And we still rise and shine, and we still rise really high in order to be, in order to find light. So here what you are saying is absolutely the same thing as you getting excited by reading the word self-healing, because you thought that, it's your duty to understand a little more or help yourself learn art in a way in which it heals you, right? So you did make that effort. You did make that effort to kind of work on self-healing as a process. And since you're interested in art, you tried this out. So we are following a similar procedure here also in mandala, and which is why entire mandala will see a lot of petal designs in it. There are more reasons behind us having lotus petals in mandala, but the primary one can be suggested as this one. Now I'm going to use a pen and we will work on the inner designs also. We'll figure out what else is to be done in the meantime. So what I'm going to do is, after making the outline here, one inner line, double line, and curve and back. What did we do? Double line. Again, this one, curve and back. So double line,
Ma'am,
curve,
which pen are you used?
and back. I'm using Artline pen, Artline 0.3. Curve and back. So what are you doing right now? Right now, you are making a spiral-based design. What is a spiral-based design? If you notice, you are actually making a spiral here, starting point and movement, right? You're making a spiral. And using the spiral, you're converting this into a design. So the place where you are writing down the fundamental shapes also mention spiral as a fundamental shape. Okay. Why spiral? Just the way we talked about the circle, we also felt that, well, circle is just the fundamental shape and the entire mandala cannot be made by that. We had to convert that into designs. Similarly, you also looked at lotus petal, and I'm going to show you in some time one more design that can be made using lotus petal. Similarly, while spiral is the core shape, fundamental shape of this of mandala, we can't just make spirals everywhere. We've got to do something artistically with it, right? And in order to do something artistically with it, we convert that into designs, and which is what you are doing right now, using a spiral to create a design of your own. Okay. Other than the spiral, you have many other fundamental shapes that you use in mandala painting, like a jewel shape, or the lines, or the petals, or the drops. Even the spirals that you are using are not going to be in clockwise direction also, always. It might be in anti-clockwise direction, but at the end, always know that no matter what kind of design you're using, it will always have something optimistic and positive in the overall philosophical meaning. Okay. You do have this area which is left in between, right? The central area. You can draw a small circle and shade the background. We do that, shading the background kind of a process in mandala usually, because you can call this as an aesthetic process also, or you can call this as a philosophical value also. However, it has more practical purpose than anything else. The purpose is that with shading of anything which is extra, you tend to channelize the focus on the things that actually mean something, that actually hold value in terms of the overall design, which is why when you're making a mandala and you have something extra, some kind of extra space, because you divided it into parts, so you should be shading all those extra spaces. And at the end, your design will look much more pretty compared to the one when you don't shade the background. One common question that is usually asked is, when we are making the grid, if you remember, we started with making the grid. While making the grid, how many concentric circles should we make? And how many lines should we make for the grid, the vertical and horizontal lines? So the answer would depend on, for concentric circles, depends on what is the size of your mandala. For this particular one, which is an average sized mandala, here I don't need many concentric circles because my design is going to be small, right? But if I am going to do this on wall, it is going to be much more elaborate. So I would, of course, need something. It's a very common, common information kind of. When it comes to the vertical and the horizontal lines, since you are doing a small piece of work, and this is only a demonstration for all of you, we have been able to pull it off by using only 8 lines. But the minute you start expanding your design, when you make something which is bigger, this is not going to be sufficient for you. So what do you do then? You usually divide it into more smaller parts so that you are able to maintain symmetry even better. And for a small piece of work, it's completely fine. But usually, when it is going to be a little more, we will make more designs. We will make more reference points for ourselves, and hence we will repeat the process. So it is going to be a judgmental call depending on the size and intricacy level of your mandala. Okay. We are going to do the same thing on this part also. Since we had made a circle on the outer side, we're repeating the exercise. Darken it, use a pen, shade the background or the extras.
Ma'am,
Yes.
can I use black dot pen?
Yes, I guess you joined a little late, so you can use any quality of pen for today. I'm using an art line pen. It is basically a fine liner. Fine liner is the quality of the pen. Those from art background will already be knowing this, but it is okay if you are not aware of it. So an art line is something that has a very good quality in terms of intensity of art line. No, art line is just a brand. So the fine liner is the quality, and I might be using Micron, or I might be using Brusto, or I might be using art line. All of them are the same. They're just different brands, and the quality is way different from the ones that we use for writing. So these are typically for drawing works. Now I want all of you to notice for a second here, everyone. So in this part, I'm going to make the central petal first. And from behind, 1, 2, and 3. 3 petals. Shade the background. Since in mandala, we try to maintain symmetry as much as possible, we will keep the number of petals same on both the sides. And we are going to repeat this exercise. 1, 2, and 3. Do we keep the count of petals 3 only every time? No. Since the space was such that we were able to accommodate 3 petals for the first section that we created, and since you've got to make it symmetric, we are going to stick by the count 3 now. This might be 3, might not be 3 in number for you, and it is completely okay. I want you all to notice how the clarity of design changes the minute you shade the background. You have used a circle. So you've used a semicircle, you have used a spiral, you have used a lotus petal. You have also started using, you may call this as a petal, or you may call this as a drop design. Now, think about it, and if you could write it in the chat box, why do you think we use a drop pattern in mandala? Whatever comes to your mind, why do you think we use a drop pattern in mandala? What could be the philosophical value of that? That's a nice one, Shivangi. Rashi, I will need your help to read out the questions that have come up. I was not able to read.
Sure. So we have a question from Disha ma'am. Ma'am, which type of drawing papers should I use for mandala?
For mandala, there is nothing fixed as to what kind of paper you should be using. You can use anything and everything as long as the ink does not seep to the other side. Usually, if you're applying paint of any kind, you should be using any paper, handcrafted or cold pressed, hot pressed, or otherwise, as long as it is 180 GSM above. 180 GSM refers to, basically GSM refers to gram per square meter. So you are referring to the thickness of the paper. So even the ones that you get in the market, which are classmate drawing notebooks or any kind of journal, if you keep, all of them are okay for making mandala. There is nothing fixed in terms of the quality. As long as the paper is smooth enough and allows you to work without any hindrance, it is fine.
Okay, so we have a question next from Anushri. Ma'am, voice is not clear, but I guess it is. And which pattern are you saying? Which pattern you were talking about?
I'm currently talking about drop pattern, drop pattern. What do you think is the significance of drop in mandala?
And we have a question from Devanshi, ma'am, for wall. Which pen we should use for wall?
So for wall, you can use a number of pens, and you can either use brushes and acrylic for wall, or if you wish, you can use permanent markers for wall. You can also use acrylic pens for walls.
Okay, so we have a question. We have a comment from, Shivangi. She says, drop all the negatives of the mind, as you were, asking them to suggest things. Same from Somili, ma'am. Constant water drops calms our mind.
Okay, that is actually quite a beautiful statement that you have put. Nice.
Shruti, ma'am, we have a question. Can we use century paper?
For initial practice purposes, for trying to learn kind of a thing, for creating your collection sort of idea, yes, you can. It is not a problem. Basically, you're referring to the printing papers. So yeah, you can use. However, they are not very good in terms of quality when it comes to preserving your works. So it will not be preserved easily. You should be aware of that. And it is not of a professional quality. So maybe later you will find it difficult, but for now, it is completely okay.
We have a next question from Supriya, ma'am. Help us. Okay, so we have a statement from her that mandala helps us to know what all aspects in life are important for us. And then Akshaya says, signifies how a thing as simple as a drop can help and relax our mind.
Okay.
And then Devanshi is asking for glass painting, which color we should use.
No, glass painting, I will refrain from answering that question. That is not relevant to the workshop. So I will refrain from answering that question. However, if there is anything related to mandala or related to wall, mandala on walls or mandala on any other surface, you can ask.
Okay, so these were the questions over
here. Okay, perfect. Thanks, Rashi.
Anushri is asking from where mandala art came. She means the origin, if you can tell.
Okay, I will answer that 1 second. So people, you have this section, this small section here, right? Here I'm going to do hatches. So lines in both the directions, so that your background also remains intricate and you are able to focus on what is there on the forefront also. That's an interesting way of putting it forth. However, I will refrain from answering the glass painting side of it because that is not my domain. And this is not something I would like to dive into. So no, I'm not going to answer that part. However, going back to the question that you asked about where it came from. So mandala as an art, as an understanding has always been there. 1 second, you're not able to see the design. You can see it now, I guess. Okay. So mandala as a philosophical value, as an art with philosophical value has been there for very, very long, but in different ways, in different faiths, in different demographic divisions, in different, communities. For example, if you have noticed the Hamsa shape, which has a hand and the triangle in the center and an eye inside, which is believed to be, it is a hand of, it is also called the hand of Fatima. So, which we use to keep ourselves protected against the evil eye, that particular shape, the Ashtmangal shape, the Rangoli shapes, the sand mandala shape. Sand mandala is sort of mandala created by the Buddhist monks using sand, colored sand, and which is used to convey the idea of impermanence. So in all of them, mandala has always been there. If you notice the architectural patterns from 1st and 2nd AD, if you notice the dome patterns from very, very, very long time, it has always been there in the architecture, in the different kinds of paintings, like in the Turkish painting also, it is there. It has been an inspiration for different kinds of folk arts also. It has been an inspiration for, Alpana, if you are aware of a lot of things like Alpana, Ipan, or using Pitta, the colloquial term that I'm using. So all the shapes that we have been making on our floors, all of them have always been existing as long as the civilization dates back to. So they have been in our lives in different shapes and different forms. However, we have not been calling all of them mandala. Gradually, over time, we kind of found a close relationship between every single thing that we have already been using and the philosophical value that has been associated with them for long, and which is why gradually it came into existence as an art form also. So if you have to ask the origin of mandala, I would always suggest that it is not something that was formed over around a certain period of time, because we see glimpses of it even in the Konark temple, the Ashtmangal that we notice in Konark temple, which is Ashtmangal is one of the oldest signs in Hinduism. So even that is mandala based. So if you actually go back to the origin of it, it dates back to somewhere around as long as people have been able to express through art. If I was able to answer your question. Putting an outline here too. Okay. You can use any medium of coloring today. When I say any medium, you can use any kind of color, be it sketch pen, brush pen, watercolor, pencil color, or maybe color pencils, or anything, an acrylic paint, poster color, anything and everything that you wish to use. You can use that to fill your empty space so that you can write a beautiful note for yourself in the center. Before doing that, I am going to erase all the extra parts. So if you notice, there are these extra portions here. I am going to erase them. Basically, you do erase the grid. In this portion, I am going to mark 2 small circles to mark that this design has come to an end. We will work on the fine-tuning part a little bit. Before that, since you have used a hatch, right? You did use lines in both the directions. And I had told you in the very beginning that we don't use anything randomly. We use it only if it is in line with the concept of mandala altogether. So what could possibly be the meaning of line? So if it is a generic thing, if it is a generic art, or it is a generic shape that we are using only for expression purposes, if that is the case, then we would have said that line is something that is more about division, more about partition, more about talking about differences or keeping things separate. But that is not the case when it comes to mandala. When you're making a line in mandala, you are saying that it is a convergence. It is something where things come to one place. So what you're referring to is convergence on all levels, convergence of different aspects of you, like you being, fond of music and art and studies and reading books and so many things, and you trying to look up for a balance in all of them. And line is something that refers to that point where you're trying to bring in all the energies at one place. You can also talk about line as something that shows the balance or convergence of mental and emotional health and the physical health. So you're talking about everything finding a perfect balance for itself, and that is what you are leaning towards. On these lines, I'm now going to color the central part, and I'm going to use blue color. The reason for me to use blue color in this particular mandala is blue color is something that talks about aspirations and dreams. It is the color of dreams itself. It is the color that gives you the freedom of being. It gives you the liberty of being. It gives you that space where you feel that you are not being disturbed. It is that kind of a space. It is more about vastness. So since it is about vastness, about the idea of being, about the idea of being liberated, about the idea of being free but still keep moving, if all of these things are there in blue color, it makes it perfect for a mandala. Because in mandala we are trying to do all of those things, right? I am using a Camlin brush pen. I'm using a Camlin. Camlin is the brand, and brush pen is the quality that I'm referring to. So I'm using a Camlin brush pen for this thing. So I'm going to use the same thing on two sides, one on the inner side where you can now write down any quote of your choice, and on this section which we had left empty. It is not necessary that you use blue color only. I would suggest that you use any color that is close to your heart, which you associate very well with. It can be any color. I will not recommend black color because mostly with black color, with our changing moods, it is something that changes our way of looking at things also. It is something that is so blank that it gives you the opportunity of falling in a vicious circle, which is why I will never suggest black for mandala. However, you can use anything that you associate very well with, and at the same time, it gives you strength. So while in the process of creation of this mandala, you would have noticed it for yourself that it just did not give you the opportunity of being deviated. It kind of grabbed your attention all the while. It was something that, looped you in. It did not let you out. It did not let you flutter in the world of confusion, chaos, or your own, questions and so on. So Shagun, I'll just answer your question. So it was something that was letting you be, but at the same time, not letting you go to the negative side. Sketch brand, well, it's called a brush pen, and the brand that I'm using is called Camden. You can get different brands of brush pens. Brusto also has brush pens. However, I suggest Camden for mandalas usually for the beginners, especially for the beginners. This area is your personal space. Whatever you want to write for yourself, to yourself, write it down here. You can write anything like self-care or love yourself or be proud of yourself or being a better version of yourself, or anything or everything that you wish to write as a message for yourself here. Do we always write a message in mandala? Of course not. We do different things in mandala, and writing message is one of the things that we can do. So it is a style that we have learned. Rest is our creative freedom. Second. Yeah, thank you. Rashi, you have it back, right?
No, ma'am. I am not the host right now, but no problem. We can continue. Yeah, I am there back, and
Okay.
we can continue.
Okay, perfect. So I tried my level best answering what is the meaning of drop in mandala. A drop in mandala is something that says it is a drop of water from the ocean of knowledge. So what it is trying to say is whatever you have learned, whatever you have achieved, whatever you have had as a label assigned by you to yourself or by others to yourself, it doesn't matter. All that you are is just a small drop from the ocean of knowledge. How much ever you have acquired is still little. So it tries to tell you that be humble about whoever, whatever you are. And that is the best and the most beautiful way of living. You can write your message in any color that you want. If you have white pens, jelly pens, you can write a message in white color. If you want to use a glitter pen, you can use that. If you want to use a black pen, use that. Anything and everything is fine. Okay. Rashi, I'm now handing it over to you. We have been able to work on the design now, and I'm handing it over to you for, taking it forward.
Yes, ma'am, sure. So I hope you all have learned something really new today. And this is not just all about mandala, as we cannot, cover up everything in this one particular 1 hour session. So we have a separate design course for mandala art as well. I'll be just sharing my screen to discuss the details with all of you about Mandala Artform. And it's a full therapy course that we are having here at Bit Class with Bhamini ma'am herself, right? She'll be taking the classes for the same. And a lot is left to cover up, right? Abhi bahut kuch rehta hai in our journey to cover up. This is just one form that we could cover up in this 1 hour session. And there is a lot more to discover about it as well, as it helps you to give a therapy, and it is really healing you from inside. Once you invest, you sit down and you start making it, you are completely giving time to yourself, right? You are giving that relaxation to yourself. So I'll be just sharing my screen with everyone, and I will be showing you some sample mandala artworks as well by Bhamini ma'am. So I would request you all to stay here. So I hope you all are able to see my screen now, right? If every one of you can respond here in the chat box, and I can see a quick energy in the chat box, please. Okay, so only 2 responses, only 2 people are able to see my screen. Is that so? Okay, so I hope it is now clear to everyone, right? Great. So guys, the classes that we are having for Mandala Art Therapy are starting from 5th of February and will continue till 25th of February on Saturdays and Sunday. We are having these classes on Saturdays and Sundays, and this is the timings for the classes for starts from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. But then again, we have to cover up the complete drawing. It takes time, right? We definitely extend the session if required. So the timings for the classes are 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. It would be a 1 hour session. And total in all these are 6 mastery sessions with mentorship, right? Now, what comes along with this master classes? Is master course ke saath kya aata hai? Since you all will be learning in these 6 mastery sessions, right? You will be learning the art form completely. You definitely need time to practice it as well. You will start practicing once you learn the complete course. So for that, once the sessions ends on 20th Feb, after that you will be needing guidance over the same. आपको guidance चाहिए होगी कि अब मेरे को ये problem आ रहा है, I've just started practicing, so whom should I contact to? So for that, you will be connected to Bhamini ma'am directly. You all will be a part of community chat group of Bit Class app. एक group का part होंगे Bit Class app पे, जहाँ पे Bhamini ma'am will be the head for all of you, and you can directly connect to her. You can even have her contact details. She'll be sharing it with you all so that you can directly connect to her for the guidance thing, right? For some samples, if you want some ideas you want, she'll be there to help you out with the same. Coming to it, you all will be learning in that time period, so it is, it will be certified for you that you can even give these therapy sessions to other people, right? You can teach other people, you can grow professionally in the same field, you can create your artwork, and you will be able to find it out. You will be able to sell it out. Some business tricks will be even shared with you all, business techniques, that how you can scale up with selling your artworks as well, right? Ma'am will be there to guide you about everything. It is a certified course. You all will be getting the certification for the same. As I told you, these are 6 sessions